Hello, my name is Sherilyn and I'm a music teacher from Malaysia. In this podcast, you will hear me share stories about my teaching career and other stuff that interests me, such that I want to share with you. Stay tuned and listen to what's coming next in this episode. It's the night time now at the point of this recording. And it's a Friday night, and Friday nights are usually wind down time for me, but not always. Because out of 3 weeks in the month, 3 Friday nights will be me attending my church cells gathering, but because of the pandemic, it has to be on Zoom, so I like to call it cell Zoom. Yeah, it's where me and my church friends will gather on Zoom, and then we will have our sharing sessions, prayer sessions, fellowship, things like that, church activities. So tonight was a little bit different, as we started our cell Zoom by sharing the first, or I would rather say we were sharing what 1 year of the pandemic has done to us. That sounds very crude, but actually it's more like what be grateful for, what have we learned, and things like that. So we were taking turns to share, and as I was waiting for my turn, I was writing down points, and I wrote down 3 main points. The first main point is my career development. The second point was relationships, and the third point was personal stuff. So career development is a very big deal, very big thing for me in the past year, because early last year that was way before way before coronavirus hit. Back last January 2020, I was still collecting my master's research data, and I was compiling it, I was analyzing, so it was quite a hectic time. And I was also doing freelance work. I was also teaching freelance piano lessons as well. So it was quite a busy time early last year. And then suddenly, when the whole world shut down in March, that really hit me, and I kind of questioned my existence. I suddenly have an existential crisis back then, because I was thinking, gosh, this virus hit us and it affected the whole world, and suddenly the world turned silent, and what's gonna happen to me? What is it in for me, the future? Like, because people can't go to school, people can't go to work, health is priority, economy just cannot run as the way it was. Yeah, so I had this kind of like mental breakdown. I questioned myself. I even had a pep talk with my supervisor at that time, and she was very understanding, and we were talking about the future of education and how education was like in the last pandemic, which was the plague back in the early 20th century, or was it the 18th century? I can't remember which. Probably for all I know, it was probably early 20th century. Yeah. So according to my lecturer at that time, she said that people stopped studying for a while because of the plague, and when things kind of got back to normal, people just get back to what they had to do. Like, if they were studying before the pandemic and they couldn't during the pandemic, they went back studying after the pandemic, or more like post-pandemic situation. So yeah, there was this whole conversation about should we still stress about education during that time, last year, year 2020. a lot of children were affected, even the young adults or even working adults like me who are pursuing higher education. We are all affected by it. So yeah, and then I also had conversations with my friends, close friends, colleagues, close colleague come friends, and we were talking about how we're going to deal with this music teaching, how we're going to deal with it during this pandemic. And then we were very quick in the sense that we know that we cannot just let lessons stop, we cannot let teaching stop. We have the internet, we have computers, we have our devices. So it was only a matter of time that we went virtually, that we were teaching online. So we were kind of like building indirectly, we were building this support system, among ourselves. And I believe at that time I was, the more knowledgeable one among my friends, because I had quite a bit of equipment, and those equipment I have are suitable for online teaching. And at the same time, because of this, knowledge of recording and sound equipment, I end up in a way giving consultations to my friends who don't have equipment, or what can they do, what can they use, for their online teaching. And I even gave advice like how they should change the way they teach. Like a very simple example would be like playing duets. There were some teacher friends who were still trying to play duets or accompany their student as they play. But that obviously doesn't work because the internet is slow, there is a delay, there's a lag, so it's impossible to play duets. So I offered some advice like, okay, maybe you can provide a pre-recording of your accompaniment so that you can share the audio so that the students can follow it. But even then, that is also difficult. It's not easy either, because sharing audio to the student doesn't mean that you will be able to hear the students play with the accompaniment. And if the student is a young student, it's even harder. So these are one of the few advice that I gave to my friends, like do some recording or get your student to record their playing so that you can give feedback during the lesson and try to teach. Because a virtual lesson is just very consuming, it's very time consuming, virtual lessons, because of the delay. So much more time is taken up for sound to travel, and it's not like an actual physical lesson where everything is real time. So that's quite challenging actually. And I was happy that I could offer advice, offer consultation to my friends or whoever needs it. And from then on, it kind of roll into something that even at that time I was also helping out with church worship. Church also kind of shut down as well, so everything is online. Church services are online, church worship services are online. So how could the worship musicians and worship leaders serve the congregation? So I was asked to give a internal webinar for the worship team, for whoever could turn up, and I explained the dynamics, or more like how recordings can take place, or what kind of equipment is needed, and just in general just help the team understand what is required and what are the challenges of recording for an online service. And I even did another webinar on how to present yourselves on camera, because that became also a very big deal during the pandemic, a lot of activities are conducted virtually, and a lot of pre-recordings are being done. So not only is audio presentation important, visual presentation is just as important, if not more important, because you have to help, or I would say you have to engage the audience who is watching the recording. And it's not easy because there's a whole bunch of things like camera angle, the height of the camera, how close it should be, and how you should position your face, your eyes, where should it look, lighting, environmental noise. There was so much going on at that time, and I tried to help as much as I could. So yeah, I'm kind of going tangent in a bit, but because of all that short time I was giving advice and things like that, it kind of snowballed. The correct word is snowballed. It snowballed into something larger, because I was freelancing at that time. I didn't have a full-time job yet, and definitely the pandemic has affected me in many ways, because I suddenly didn't get a lot of freelance jobs, and even piano studio is also affected, because some students are not suitable for, or more like they can't do online learning because of internet, or maybe because they don't have the proper equipment and instruments. So I lost a bit of income at that time. So I was thinking like, well, I have this music tech skills, and I could offer advice to people. I was thinking, how could I leverage on this skill, on this knowledge that I have. And so with encouragement from my close friends, I end up conducting webinars for the local music teacher, because many of our local music teachers, or piano teachers I would say, they do not have the know-how into doing virtual teaching. It's everyone's first time. Everyone is suddenly forced into it. So I was trying out, and I developed short courses, online workshops, like one night only workshops, or a couple of sessions in that sense. So I was teaching teachers how to use MuseScore for their online lessons. I also did one of the first webinars I did publicly was about audio recording, actually. And as I recall, it was a very interesting experience, because I got my friend Kimberly to help me host it, and it was open to nearly 100 people. So I was using a premium Zoom account, which allows around 100 people to be in. But it was a disaster, because so many people were trying to get into the Zoom at the same time. It kind of crashed. Both of us couldn't get in. People couldn't get in, and I was panicking. I was like, oh my god, what am I gonna do? So thank God that I have Kimberly there at that time, and she told me to calm down, and she told me like, okay, let's just set up another room, give a new password so that everyone can come in. Think something like that. And in the end, I think half the registrants turn up, and I think that was still fine. Okay, there were people who still enlightened despite the delay. A lot of questions came in, and I kind of enjoy it in the sense that I was able to share my knowledge so publicly for the first time, and it really tested me in the sense that how much do I really know. And it's also a skill to answer people, answer questions that you're not really sure of. That's the tricky part, right? As the so-called expert, how much do you know about this and that? So I try to be as honest as I can, and I don't want to BS too much either. After all, I'm a teacher, and my music tech abilities, there is some limitation to it after all, right? Everyone's skill set is different. So that was, one of my, first webinars, and subsequently after that, I conducted those webinars which are more targeted towards music teachers, so that I can introduce them to softwares, free tools, free apps, free websites, things like that. And then I was invited to join another platform, and things went on from there. So that was a very interesting experience from a career point of view, because I have never done digital marketing. I have never had to market my skills, because I had to advertise my webinar on local Facebook groups. I even tried international ones, like those which has more international members from other countries. I tried that, and it was interesting because there were people who participated in some of those webinars that I conducted last year, and it was quite eye-opening as well, because I had to manage the event myself. It was like a one-woman show, seriously, because I not only did I have to advertise, I have to come up with the ad design, the logos, the pictures, the words. Just coming up with a webinar title was not easy. It had to make sense. So those first few ones that I did were kind of long, but in the long run, I kind of like smarten up and try to make it coherent and attractive. And I think that is something I'm still working on. And those are the few things I had to learn. Digital marketing, like marketing my course through Instagram, Facebook, and even my own website, and even through my network, close network. So I made use of my WhatsApp and things like that, but I think that kind of annoyed people after a while. So and I learned a lot of things. And then Kimberly also introduced me to this fundamentals of digital marketing course on Google's GarageBand. So I even learned about that as well. Learn more about that since I'm applying it. So it kind of makes sense as I apply whatever business or entrepreneur skills I have. I was also learning at the same time. Things like that. And I was also learning to find out what other tools that I can use to teach rhythm, harmony, singing, or what tools can I use on my Android, my iPad, my computer. So I was doing all this research and compiling it into one or several courses that I did. So it was interesting. Teacher training was a very big thing last year. So that was something that I never thought I'd do, but it was something that I have a passion for. I like sharing knowledge. I like training others, what they can do with their career, what are the things that they can change about their teaching, maybe the curriculum or the pedagogy, the approach in teaching and learning. So that was very, very interesting, because 2020 is the year where teachers are like, working 24/7. They are learning 24/7 on how to teach online and what are the tools that they can use. And a passionate teacher will, do anything and use any means to reach out to their student and teach their student. So those were the things. And towards the end of the year, I got my master's degree, and very quickly I was introduced to the job that I have now at this international school. And I'm very happy to work full time again. So I kind of like pull back on my freelance work, of course my online webinars as well over the last few months. But Now recently I'm picking up a little bit again as my schedule is freeing up a bit, and I felt like I have something to share. So yeah, it was very interesting, and it was also towards the end of last year that I started some online learning communities, because I realized that conducting webinars are good, but I had trouble promoting and doing everything on my own. It was very, very tiring. I got a burnout for a couple of months, and then I decided that probably this freelance thing is not what I should be doing. And in a way I was glad that I got a full-time job back, because I knew the routine. I know what are the ins and outs of of a school. I think in a way I feel like I'm very suited for a school environment. So yeah, I'm happy to be back at school, but I have a different role now. Yeah, and amidst all that, I learned a lot of things, and as I mentioned earlier, I started some learning communities, and I managed to get a group of teachers to join. So I have these 2 private learning communities on Facebook. One is about tech tools for music education, and another one is about music notation software. So if you check out my website, you can find those the information about those learning communities, and I might talk more about it in future. So where was I? Yeah, I'm talking a lot about teacher development, teacher training. Yeah, this is the main big thing I learned during the pandemic year. And in the last few months, even though I have stopped doing a lot of online stuff, but now I'm very focused on teaching my school students, and it has been virtual for the last almost 3 months. Yeah, at the time of this recording, it's almost 3 full months of virtual learning. So that was another learning curve for me, as well as I try to use what is suitable in a virtual group music class. It's not just a one-on-one class, but a group music class. And how do I teach to a class of 10? How do I teach to a class of 5? And how can I help this age group or that age group learn? Like, what videos should I use? Should I create my own material? Should I design my material? Things like that. And by the time end of March this time, I have I would say a workflow. Yeah. In the beginning it was not consistent, but now I start to get a feel of this workflow, and I think I can still continue to use this workflow when everything goes back to physical mode. Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed that we don't have to go virtual again. Yeah. So that's my journey as a teacher in the past year, in this first anniversary of the pandemic, so to speak. Yeah, and I hope you have take something away from this, and I hope to hear from you soon. Good night. Thank you for joining my adventures, and I hope that you have learned something new. Feel free to connect with me on my social media handles, Share the Music, email me at sharethemusic@gmail.com, or visit my website sharethemusic.org. I can't wait to hear from you, and see you soon in the next episode.